participate in as individuals that I think we need to investigate.
I don't think gatekeeping is always bad. I think as a people, historically, we may have been too free with our gate swinging back and forth.
Y'all family.
Yeah, no, yeah. So that's really all I wanted to submit to that. But I hear you, sis. I hear you loud.
But also, that's interesting you say that, because I just had a conversation with someone about the term women of color, right? So, and a lot of black women are champions of the phrase women of color. And I always say, you know, I don't feel included in women of color, and that's us being, you know, swinging the wide, you know, the gatekeeping, like, you know, of course you can come into this, and a lot of other women don't see me in the same way that I see woman of color. I'm a black woman to them. I'm not a woman of color. And yet I can see an Asian woman and be like, you know, she's a woman of color. And yet she doesn't see me in the same way that I see her.
Yeah, that's interesting. There was a very interesting, it's outside of the scope, but it speaks to it. It was a really good article about this sister, well, not a sister, somebody whose gender was up for inquiry. And she came to and this person, they, right? I'm getting it right, they came to the States. And what was interesting is the dynamic of getting to America, in particular New York, and they were bundled under the LGBTQIAAPK plus dynamic. And this individual made it very clear that I don't want to be under that umbrella. And it was very interesting because from a distance, that seemed like the ideal, like finally I'll have a home. But once they got here, that is even a part of this American spectacle dynamic, so that Gap can sell you some t-shirts and whatever. Right. So yeah.
So Brooke, let's go ahead.
You know, I was just expanding on what he was saying. That's exactly what happened to Baldwin, I feel, when he went to Greenwich Village. Is, you know, he started seeing things. You start to reflect and self-reflect when you do go to different spaces and all that.
I think for me, just two points I try to say as quick as possible. You know, a big part, and I think you just said it, how we see ourselves often is through the lens of an outside perspective as opposed to an inner. And gatekeeping to me, I feel like sometimes is we lose our humanity seeking to make sense of sometimes the irrational. In my opinion, I'm much more concerned about humanity than I am concerned of joining a certain group. Because what you think you're seeking or you're running from, sometimes you find yourself right there. And I think what this experience and what America has been, which is a white nationalistic experiment, utopia, in fact, for even people who are considered whiteness. What it's been for us has been a abrasive journey of sometimes just nothingness or trying to make sense of the irrational. Some things are not made to make sense. And I think moving off of Baldwin, and you know, I think I would love to do something on Frantz Fanon, who says something in The Wretched of the Earth, which, I mean, I obviously can't quote him exactly or as eloquent as he said it. He said, basically, you know, let Europeans be European. They've been great at it. We need innovation from a different space and ideology, because this individual gain that everyone in here can say that they've accomplished something individually, we live in a world where we actually celebrate black excellence through entertainers or politicians or business people because of their individual accolades, not their communal accolades. And that sort of, you know, fighting an ideology of white supremacy and European thought and an individual act does nothing to it. So what is an ideology that we are expressing or constructing through humanity and through our common experiences? Because if you can evolve and go in that direction as far as you can with critical thought and action, then you start redefining your existence and the reality that we all live in, which I think we all have kind of checked out and become complicit or complacent in either way regarding what's going on. Because in between the Atlantic and Pacific, America is a 24-hour, it's like a 24-hour bodega. It's always open, and there's a big jumbotron giving you what you should be like. And that's a very dangerous position to be in. And that's when you start getting into American exceptionalism and all these other things of how history, how we can sit around all day and actually debate whether Iran is really bad or whether they should have nuclear weapons without knowing history. Without knowing in 1953, America and Kermit Roosevelt went in and disrupted and removed the democratic, liberal, voted leadership. And then says, you know what, you can't have, so now and today, the current president, all prior, whether it's Obama or anybody, you can't have weapons. Why not? But we discuss these things and we live without actually knowing history.
Because I'm going to be the only one with a gun.
Yeah, but
you're the only one busting your gun and you tell everybody else can't have one.
But it's, you know, to my point, like, we're not living. We're not being. And I think that's a problem that exists in all of our professions, in all of our neighborhoods, in all of our families, in all of our relationships. And I think we're suffering as a result, as humans. Yeah.
But the lions will never have a history as long as the hunters are right.
Absolutely.
That's true. Hugh?
No, I'm just thinking about the concept of space and also call to action and gatekeeping. For me, I feel like my call to action for myself, and I challenge everyone to do this, to be quite honest, is that you may invade my neighborhood, like whiteness, or some people call themselves white. They may invade my neighborhood, they may come in and take up space, but you would not take up my mental space. Like, that's one thing that I really keep close to me, like that's where my gate is, you know what I'm saying? So, look, you move next to me, you may not like me, so be it. But you're not gonna bother me by like having your 3 strolls on the sidewalk, you know what I'm saying? You're not like gonna make me mad because you got like 1,000 dogs all of a sudden, you know what I mean? Like, you're not gonna take my mental space like that, right? But I also recognize on some level that's problematic because it's not enough like just to think and let them control this space right here, but I have to extend that and be like, all right, so I got this up here. I need to teach people who look like me to, you know, kind of see that as well. Like, you know, I don't really, like now, I don't even care what white people do. Like, I don't care what you do. Like, I'm really concerned about what people like me do. You know what I'm saying? And that's really important to me. So I just think like, we all got to make sure like we gatekeep our mental space and extend it to each other, and then like take action with that. And I don't know how to do that. I ain't got no answer. I'm just saying like that's what I'm working on doing.
So just in respective time, because there's still a lot of activities that the Schomburg has available. I know some West Indian folk in the room, and so they have some literature available right now in this hour. We want to get some portraits in the spirit of Baldwin and Friends as we've been doing. There are 2 quiet voices I want to address, but I do want to adjourn so we can get these other conversations that are burning to happen going. Yes, sister.
I should stand in that. Only because I see myself and I'm one of the oldest people in the room. Okay? So my generation, and so I'm speaking from that as an African American woman, born and raised in New York City, but whose parents, my father was from Birmingham, Alabama, known as Birmingham, Alabama. Everybody knows that reference. Okay. Mother from South Carolina, near Charleston. Okay. And came here, so they definitely have some stories. And stories about segregation and separate schools and this and that and the other thing, right in the back of the bus and all of that. I was a member of the civil rights generation. I had been on freedom rides. So you want to ask me, well, what were we fighting for? What was my generation of black folks fighting for? Well, that's another conversation. But what was coming to my mind, and I'm an educator, I'm now retired, but I'm still doing certain kinds of work and it's around issues of identity, which you were raising. And this is about us as African Americans, people of African descent. Number one, and I saw this film here at the Schomburg, please look at the film, The Neo-African Americans. It is a documentary by a Ghanaian, his name is Kobina Aidu, and it was done in 2009. You can get it online. What is it? How immigration from Africa and the Caribbean is transforming the African American narrative. And it is a fascinating documentary. Again, the Neo-African Americans. You must see that, okay? Secondly, I told you where my father comes from, right? You know what he said? He said, nobody cares. People, the average person, he was a working class man, was not a college graduate. But he made sure, and we made sure that, you know, my brother and I went to college, because that was the time. We must go to college, okay? But he said, people do not care what government they live under. The average person, as long as they can have food, clothing, and shelter. Okay? Does that sound reasonable or not?
Accurate.
Accurate, okay. So whatever you name it, socialism, capitalism, free market, whatever. Can I get some food? Can I have a house?
Raise my family.
Whatever you're going to call it. Raise my family, and I'm safe, whatever. Okay. Number 2. Also, everyone knows the name John Henry Clark, yes?
Yes.
Absolutely. We know how Afrocentric he is, right? He was. Okay? Right? What did he say? He said, never in the history of humankind has a people united on the basis of color alone. They unite on the basis of ideology. And when he came here to the Schomburg from the South, you know where he came from, and he met Arturo Schomburg, he said, well, what should I read? What should I study? What should I study? Do you know what Schomburg said to him?
Learn everything you can about you.
Thank you. You must study European history. Okay. You must study European history. And I would just generalize and say you must study history, the history of humanity all around the world. Because born here in the West, what do you know about China? One of the oldest civilizations on the planet. What do you really know about ancient Egypt, you know, and ancient African kingdoms and the ancient, you know, Native American kingdoms in the Americas? What do we know about those? So our only reference is whatever textbooks we've been given, okay? So that's about humanity. The other is, anybody know the name Ron Karenga?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you. You know about
International African Arts Festival.
Pardon?
International African Arts Festival?
Well, that was from ages ago, right?
Yeah, okay.
He started it, right?
Right.
But also you know about Kawaida, you know about
Yeah.
Kwanzaa, etc.
Yeah.
He is the one who founded that. Now, what was the basis of doing that? And mind you, that was what, in the 60s, the 50s, but he had these concepts and ideas. What did he say? He says, you know what? If you don't have your personal ideology, and he was talking, he would say to the Negro, he would say the Negro is just a set of reactions to white people. So therefore, we're a set of reactions and we are not proactive. If you're proactive, that means I'm trying to accomplish something. I'm trying to build something. I'm trying to create whatever. And I would say, I guess, and I leave this to you young people, what kind of world do you want to create for humanity? Because we are indeed human beings. We are humans. What world do you want to create? What vision do you have for the world you want to participate in building, that you want to leave for the next generation and the next generation? And that requires that deep thinking about the world and humanity and our participation in it. So I just wanted to say that, and love to talk to people. I actually have a set of things I call the People's Conversation.
What was that? Neo-African what?
The Neo-Africans.
Oh, the Neo-African.
So,
The Neo-African Americans.
Okay.
with that being said, you know, I'm happy that everybody was able to get an introduction, and so now you guys got a sense of who's in the room. You got a sense of how people's minds are operating and working. I'm going to use this as a prime moment to adjourn. You know, we like to do like a little toast and everything, but I know it would be way too much to have everybody get up and a cup and all this other stuff. So, but I do want to say this, much how we started. I'm thankful, I'm grateful for this experience, the authenticity of the experience, the robust ideas, and I'm still like want to say like, how can we get a little bit more in? But I just want to be respectful of everybody, and I want to see what kind of magic happens once it's all done. So I thank you guys for sharing this experience, and I thank you guys for being a part of what the Brooklyn Combine is really doing all the time when we're just kind of sitting around the office, you know, talking shit to each other, you know, with or without the alcohol. So it really doesn't matter. You know, we try to make sure we're pushing forth ideas, and the people who came and you guys prepared and you guys really spoke to the points. You guys really made the room phenomenal. So with that being said, thank you, and let's continue this. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to teach this young man to be okay with occupying space.
Of course.
And so he said he wanted to share something. And
Of course. You want to take us out? Come on, stand up and take us out.
So when I go to school, I have this friend, right? So we really talk about African Americans, and we really focus on like how African Americans, the Great Migration, how African Americans had to travel, and it took them a while. They had to travel from the south to the north, so they could find like. So they can be like okay with themselves and not be like put down by others. And when the Harlem Renaissance started taking place, people felt more that they were like okay, and like they had power as much as the whites had power, and like they didn't feel like they were put down, or they didn't feel like they were different from others, and they felt like being a black person was basically being everybody.
So with that being said, I appreciate y'all.